The morning sun was just rising over Seoul when the sky changed forever, Captain. Hyun Woo was drinking his coffee in the Korean Space Defense Force Command Center when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed across every computer screen. In the room, and soldiers ran to their stations like their lives depended on it. Something massive had appeared in the sky above the city. Hyun Woo dropped his coffee cup and watched it shatter on the floor, but he did not care about the mess. His eyes were locked on the main display screen showing a view of Seoul from space. A huge silver ship hung in the air like a second moon. It was so big that it cast shadows over entire neighborhoods below. The ship was beautiful in a way that made humans feel small. It had smooth curves like flowing water, and its surface reflected the morning light like a mirror. There were no sharp edges or ugly metal parts like human spaceships had. Instead, it looked like someone had carved it from a single piece of silver crystal. Lieutenant So Young ran up to Captain Hyun Woo with a tablet in her shaking hands. "Sir," she said, her voice high with excitement, "our computers are going crazy. The ship is sending out signals in every language on Earth. It keeps repeating the same message over and over." "What does it say?" Hyun Woo asked, even though part of him already knew. This was the moment every human had wondered about since they first looked up at the stars. "The message says, 'We come in peace. We wish to meet with the leaders of Earth. We bring gifts of friendship and knowledge.'" So Young read from her tablet. "Sir, I think these are real aliens." Hyun Woo felt his heart beating so fast he thought it might explode. This was it. This was first contact with beings from another world. After decades of searching the stars and wondering if humans were alone in the universe, the answer had come to them on the giant display screen. 3 smaller ships detached from the mothership like silver teardrops falling from heaven. They were still huge compared to any aircraft humans had ever built, but they looked tiny next to their parent ship. The small ships began descending toward the ground, moving with impossible smoothness through the air all across Seoul. People were coming out of their homes and offices to stare up at the sky. Traffic stopped as drivers abandoned their cars to get better looks at the alien vessels. Children pointed up from school playgrounds while their teachers tried to keep them calm. News helicopters buzzed around the alien ships like insects around streetlights. The alien ships ignored the helicopters completely. They seemed to know exactly where they wanted to land. Moving in perfect formation, the 3 vessels descended toward the large park in the center of Seoul, the same park where families brought their children to feed ducks and where old men played chess under the cherry trees. Ambassador Yoonji was already in her car racing through the Seoul traffic toward the landing site. Her diplomatic training had prepared her for many difficult situations, but nothing had prepared her for this. She kept checking her phone as reports flooded in from around the world. Every major government on Earth was trying to reach her at the same time. Her assistant, J1, sat in the passenger seat frantically typing on his laptop. "We have translation devices ready," he said. "The UN team is already setting up a first contact protocol. Everything we planned for this moment is being put into action right now." But Eunji felt like all their planning meant nothing now. Who could really prepare for meeting beings from another world? What if the aliens did not understand human customs? What if they thought humans were too primitive to talk to? What if this meeting went wrong and started a war between Earth and the stars? The alien ships landed with no sound at all. They simply settled onto the grass like feathers falling from the sky the moment they touched the ground. The ships seemed to become part of the landscape as if they had always been there. Steam rose from their hulls, but it smelled like flowers instead of metal, and fuel. Crowds of people gathered around the edge of the park. Police had set up barriers to keep everyone back, but thousands of humans pressed forward, trying to get the first look at beings from space. News cameras from every country pointed toward the ships, broadcasting the moment to billions of people watching around the world. Then the ships opened. The doors did not slide or swing like human doors. Instead, sections of the ship hulls simply became transparent like windows turning into air. 3 tall figures stepped out of each ship, and humans got their first real look at alien life. They were beautiful. The aliens stood nearly 8 feet tall with long, graceful bodies that moved like dancers. They had skin that looked like it was made of living crystal that caught the sunlight and threw rainbows across the grass. Their faces were similar to humans but longer and more delicate, with large eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. The Alien in front of the group raised one long arm in what everyone hoped was a greeting gesture. When it spoke, its voice was like music played on instruments humans had never heard. "We greet the people of Earth," the alien said through speakers that had appeared from nowhere. The voice was translated into perfect Korean, but somehow everyone listening understood it in their own language. "We are travelers from distant stars, and we have come seeking friendship." Ambassador Yoonji took a deep breath and walked forward. Her legs felt weak and her hands were shaking, but she forced herself to smile. She represented all of humanity in this moment, and she would not let her species down. "Welcome to Earth," she said in the strongest voice she could manage. "I am Ambassador Unji of the United Nations. We are honored by your visit." The lead alien stepped closer, and Unji could see her own reflection in its crystal-like skin. "I am Diplomatic Envoy Veltar of the Cosmic Alliance," the alien replied. "We have watched your world from afar, and we are impressed by your rapid growth. As a civilization, we come offering knowledge, technology, and membership in a community of peaceful worlds that spans the galaxy around them." The crowd held its breath. Children stopped crying. Old people lowered their phones. Reporters fell silent as they realized they were witnessing the most important moment in human history, the moment when Earth learned it was not alone, but 60 miles away, deep underground, in a secret facility carved into the mountains. General Jinho was not smiling. His weathered face showed worry lines as he watched the alien landing through satellite feeds. He had spent 40 years in the military, learning to protect his country, and now he faced a threat unlike any in human history. "Sir," said Major Dongmin from his monitoring station, "the alien ships are equipped with energy sources more powerful than anything we have ever seen. Their technology is hundreds of years ahead of ours. If they wanted to hurt us, there would be nothing we could do to stop them." General Jinho nodded slowly. He had been in too many battles to trust first impressions. The aliens spoke of peace, but they had arrived in ships that could carry invasion armies. Their technology was so advanced that humans would be helpless if this was a trick, while the politicians and diplomats talked of friendship above ground. Jinho made the hardest decision of his life. He activated a secret protocol that had been 10 years in the making, hoping that humanity would never need to use what they had built in the darkness under the mountains. The general pressed a red button that connected him to the most classified project on Earth. "Wake up the Colossus," he said into his microphone. "This is not a drill." 6 months before the aliens arrived, Dr. Min Seo had been working on the most secret project in human history, deep under Mount Jiri in a cave system that had been carved out by machines the size of buildings. She stood before humanity's greatest creation. The Colossus lay sleeping in the massive underground chamber like a metal god waiting to wake up. It stood 400 feet tall from its armored feet to the top of its head, which almost touched the cavern ceiling. The war machine was painted in dark blue and silver colors that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. "This is it," Dr. Min Seo said to her team of engineers as they ran final tests on the giant robot. "This is what will protect Earth if we ever meet something in space that wants to hurt us." The Colossus had taken 10 years to build and cost more money than most countries spent in a decade. Every major nation on Earth had contributed something to the project. Korean engineers had designed the frame that could withstand weapons powerful enough to destroy mountains. Japanese scientists had created the neural interface that would let a human mind control the machine. American researchers had built weapon systems that could level entire cities. European technicians had developed the fusion power core that burned like a captured star. But the most important part of the Colossus was not its armor or weapons or power source. It was the young man who sat in the neural interface chair preparing to become one with the machine. Taemin was 28 years old and had trained for 3 years to be the pilot of humanity's ultimate weapon. He was not the strongest human or the smartest, but his brain worked in a way that matched perfectly with the Colossus' artificial intelligence. His thoughts moved at exactly the right speed, and his reflexes were faster than anyone had ever measured. The neural interface looked like a dentist chair surrounded by cables and glowing screens. When Taemin sat in it, dozens of thin wires would connect to ports that had been surgically implanted in his skull. The connection would let his mind merge with the Colossus, turning man and machine into something new. "I hope we never have to use this monster," Taemin said as he looked up at the sleeping giant. But if something comes from space that wants to destroy Earth, I will be ready to stop it. Dr. Min-Seo smiled at him with motherly pride. Taemin was like a son to her after years of training together. She had watched him grow from a scared young volunteer into the most dangerous human who had ever lived. When he was connected to the Colossus, he would have the strength to punch through mountains and weapons that could destroy entire fleets of spaceships. The other members of the team worked around the clock maintaining the war machine. Chief Engineer Bong-Soo checked the hydraulic systems that moved the Colossus' arms and legs, each one powerful enough to lift a skyscraper. Weapons Specialist Haijin tested the plasma cannons built into the machine's chest that could melt through any armor humans had ever created. Power Technician Woojin monitored the fusion reactor that provided enough energy to power a large city. They all knew they were building something terrible, something that could kill millions of people if it was used wrong. But they also knew they might be building the only thing that could save Earth from dangers they could not imagine. Colossus project had started after astronomers detected signals from deep space that proved intelligent life existed among the stars. The signals were peaceful, but world leaders realized that peaceful aliens might not be the only ones out there. Somewhere in the galaxy something might be waiting that saw humans as threats to be destroyed or resources to be harvested. So humanity built the Colossus in secret, a weapon so powerful that anything threatening Earth would have to think twice about starting a war. The machine was designed to fight enemies with technology far beyond what humans possessed. It could survive nuclear explosions, operate in the vacuum of space, and fight battles that would destroy continents. Now, as alarms blared through the underground facility, Dr. Min-Seo realized their worst fears had come true. General Jinho's voice echoed from speakers built into the cavern walls. Activate the Colossus immediately. This is not a drill. All personnel to battle stations. The massive hangar doors that had never been opened before started sliding apart with a sound like thunder. Steam poured out as hydraulic systems that had been dormant for months roared to life. The Colossus began to move for the first time since its construction started. Taemin was already running toward the neural interface chair, his heart pounding with fear and excitement. This was what he had trained for, but he had hoped this day would never come. As he sat down in the chair, the medical team rushed to connect the neural cables to the ports in his skull. The connection always hurt. Pain shot through Taemin's head like lightning as his human consciousness began merging with the Colossus' artificial intelligence. For a moment he felt like he was being torn apart as his sense of self expanded to fill the giant machine's body. Then the pain stopped, and Taemin was no longer just human. Through the Colossus sensors he could see the entire cavern around him. His body was now 400 feet tall and weighed as much as a battleship. His arms could punch through steel walls, and his legs could run faster than any vehicle humans had built. Power flowed through him like liquid fire, and weapon systems came online with deadly precision. The machine's eyes opened, for the first time glowing with blue energy that lit up the cavern like twin suns. Taemin moved his new massive arms and felt the incredible strength flowing through them. He was still human in his mind, but his body was now something that could fight gods. Dr. Min-Seo watched from the control room as her creation stood up to its full height. The Colossus moved with surprising grace for something so large. Its movements were smooth and precise like a dancer rather than a clumsy robot. Each step it took shook the mountain and sent vibrations through the rock that could be felt for miles. Are you ready, Taemin? She asked through the communication system. Taemin's voice came back changed by the neural interface. It was still his voice, but deeper and more powerful, as if it came from the mountain itself. I am ready, he said. The Colossus is awake, and Earth has a guardian above them. The hangar doors finished opening, revealing blue sky and sunlight that had never touched the cavern. Before the Colossus took its first step toward the surface, ready to face whatever threats waited for humanity among the stars, the sleeping giant was awake, and nothing would ever be the same. On the surface in Seoul's Central Park, Ambassador Eunji was having the most important conversation in human history. The alien diplomatic envoy Veltar stood before her like a living work of art, his crystal skin catching the afternoon sunlight and throwing rainbows across the grass where children usually played. Your World fascinates us, Veltar said in his musical voice that somehow made every listener feel peaceful. The Cosmic Alliance has observed Earth for several of your years, and we are impressed by what we see. Your species shows remarkable creativity and adaptability. Ji felt her heart soaring with hope. This was everything humanity had dreamed of since first looking up at the stars and wondering if they were alone. The aliens were offering friendship, knowledge, and a place among the civilizations of the galaxy. What is the Cosmic Alliance? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady, even though inside she felt like a child on her birthday. Voltar gestured gracefully. With one long arm, and images appeared in the air above his hand like magic. The pictures showed beautiful worlds with crystal cities, floating among clouds, and strange but wonderful beings working together in peace. We are a federation of thousands of worlds across this galaxy, Veltar explained. Each species contributes what they do best, and all benefit from the shared knowledge. We have ended war, disease, and hunger among our member worlds. The images changed to show massive ships traveling between stars carrying goods and people from dozens of different alien races. Some looked like living plants, others were made of what seemed like liquid metal, and some resembled geometric patterns that moved like they were alive. And Earth could join this alliance? Yunji asked, barely believing what she was hearing. That is why we have come, Veltar replied. Your species has reached the threshold of space travel and nuclear technology. You have also shown that you can work together when facing great challenges like climate change and global diseases. We believe humanity is ready to join the galactic community around them. Crowds of humans pressed against the police barriers, trying to hear every word. News reporters from every country on Earth broadcast the conversation to billions of people watching in amazement. This was the moment that would change everything for humanity, but your species must prove it is truly ready for membership, Veltar continued. We have seen worlds that seemed peaceful, but turned to violence when they met other species. We have also seen worlds that were too aggressive to work with others peacefully. What kind of proof do you need? Unji asked. The alien's large eyes seemed to look right through her. Simple demonstration of your peaceful intentions and your ability to defend yourselves if necessary. A species that cannot protect itself becomes a burden to the Alliance, and a species that only knows violence becomes a danger 60 miles away. In his underground command center, General Jinho was watching very different data streams while the peaceful conversation continued. Above ground, his military satellites were analyzing the alien ships with every sensor humanity possessed, and what they found made his blood run colder. Energy readings are off the charts, reported Colonel Sungho from his monitoring station. So these ships have power sources that could supply electricity to entire continents. Their hulls are made of materials we cannot even identify. Jinho stared at the displays showing the alien vessels. The small diplomatic ships on the ground looked harmless enough, but the massive mother ship in orbit was a different story entirely. His sensors detected weapon systems built into its hull that could turn mountains into glass. Sir, maybe these readings are wrong, suggested Major Kyung-hee. The aliens are talking about peace and friendship. Maybe those are just normal ship systems. Jinho had spent 40 years in the military and had survived 3 wars by trusting his instincts. When something felt wrong, those instincts were screaming at him now. The aliens talked sweetly about peace, but they had come to Earth in ships that could destroy human civilization. In minutes, the energy levels in their main ship are rising, he said grimly. They claim to come in peace, but they are powering up weapons that could kill millions of people on the surface. The peaceful first contact, continued. Veltar was explaining how Earth's music and art would be treasured throughout the galaxy, and how human scientists could learn technologies that would end poverty and disease forever. Yunji felt tears of joy running down her face as she imagined humanity's bright future. Among the stars, children from nearby schools had been brought to witness history being made. They sat on the grass, drawing pictures of the beautiful aliens while their teachers tried to explain what first contact meant for the world. Old people who had lived through wars and hard times wept as they realized their grandchildren would grow up in a universe full of friends instead of enemies. But in the secret facility under the mountains, alarms were blaring as General Jinho made the hardest decision of his life. The alien weapon systems were charging faster now, and he had to choose between trusting beings from another world or protecting his own species' launch. The Colossus he ordered, the ground beneath Seoul, began to shake. People looked around in confusion as a distant rumbling grew louder. It sounded like an earthquake, but the shaking had a rhythm to it, like giant footsteps. Even the aliens paused their diplomatic talks as the tremors grew stronger. From Mount Jiri, 70 miles away, something impossible began to rise from the earth. At first, it looked like the mountain itself was growing taller. Then people realized they were seeing something that belonged in nightmares or dreams. A metal giant 400 feet tall was climbing out of the mountain like an ancient god awakening from eternal sleep. The Colossus stood to its full height and turned toward Seoul. Its glowing blue eyes were visible even from the city, like two stars that had fallen to earth when it began walking. Each footstep shook the ground for miles around and left craters 50 feet wide. In the country, Siddhaviltar's musical voice changed for the first time, showing something that might have been fear or surprise. "What is that?" he asked, staring at the approaching war machine. Ambassador Yunji felt her heart breaking as she realized what was happening. Her own military had just destroyed humanity's chance for a peaceful future among the stars. She grabbed her radio and screamed into it, "General Jinho, what have you done?" These aliens came in peace, but deep in the Colossus' neural interface, Taemin was seeing things that no one else could detect. His enhanced senses were analyzing the alien ships and discovering secrets that would change everything. The peaceful diplomatic mission was not what it seemed to be, neither were the humans. Taemin felt the earth falling away beneath the Colossus' massive feet as the war machine rose to its full 400-foot height. The sensation was unlike anything any human had ever experienced. His consciousness had expanded to fill a body that could hold a skyscraper in its hands, and his senses now reached for hundreds of miles in every direction through the neural link. He could see the alien ships both on the ground and in orbit above Earth. The small diplomatic vessels looked like toys from his new perspective, but the massive mothership hanging over Seoul was clearly a warship disguised as an exploration vessel. "Min SCO, this is incredible," Taemin said through the communication system, his voice now carrying the deep rumble of the giant machine. "I can see everything. The aliens have weapons hidden in their main ship, weapons powerful enough to destroy entire continents in the underground control center." Dr. Min SCO watched her creation take its first steps toward Seoul. Each footprint the Colossus left behind was 50 feet wide and 20 feet deep. The war machine moved with surprising grace for something so massive, but every step sent shockwaves through the earth that could be felt for miles. "Remember your training, Taemin," she said into her microphone. "You are still human inside that machine. Do not let the Colossus combat systems make you forget who you are and why we built this weapon." But it was almost impossible to remember being small and weak when you possess the power to level mountains. The Colossus targeting systems were showing Taemin exactly how to destroy each alien ship with maximum efficiency. It would be so easy to end this potential threat before it could harm Earth. Machine's weapons were beyond anything humans had built before. Plasma cannons in its chest could melt through any armor ever created. Missile pods in its shoulders carried warheads that could crack open asteroids. Energy projectors in its hands could slice through battleships like paper. As the Colossus approached Seoul, panic spread through the city like wildfire. Traffic jams formed instantly as millions of people tried to evacuate at the same time. Cars abandoned on highways became useless obstacles as families ran on foot carrying whatever they could save. News helicopters circled the walking war machine like insects around a giant. Their cameras broadcast images of the 400-foot-tall robot to the entire world, showing humanity that their leaders had been building weapons in secret while talking about peace and exploration in the park where first contact had begun just hours earlier. Ambassador Yunji was shouting into her radio, trying to understand why her own military was attacking peaceful alien visitors. This was supposed to be humanity's greatest day, not the start of an interstellar war. "General Jinho, what are you doing?" she screamed. "These beings came offering us friendship and membership in a galactic alliance. You're going to destroy everything we have worked for." But the general's voice came back calm and determined. "Ambassador These aliens may speak of peace, but their main ship carries enough firepower to glass our planet. The Colossus is humanity's insurance policy against threats. We cannot handle any other. Voltar and his diplomatic team had retreated to their ship, but they had not left Earth yet. Through their vessel's communication systems, the alien envoy broadcast a message that reached every television, radio, and computer on the planet. His musical voice now carried notes of sadness and disappointment. Humans of Earth, he said, we came to your world offering knowledge, friendship, and a place among the peaceful civilizations of the galaxy. We have traveled across countless light years to meet with you and share the wonders of the cosmos. The alien's words cut deeper than any weapon could have. Humanity's first impression on other species was not as explorers, or artists, or philosophers. It was as beings who responded to offers of friendship with giant war machines. If this is how your species greets visitors who come in peace, Veltar continued, perhaps we were wrong about your readiness to join the galactic community. The Cosmic Alliance has strict rules about which worlds can become members. We cannot accept species that choose violence over diplomacy. Around the world, humans watched in horror as their dreams of joining the galactic community crumbled. People who had been celebrating just hours before now wept as they realized their military leaders had possibly doomed humanity to remain alone among the stars. But in the Colossus neural interface, Taman was discovering something that changed everything. His enhanced sensors were penetrating the alien ship's defenses and analyzing their true capabilities. What he found made him understand why General Jin Ho had made his desperate choice. Dr. Min Seo, he said through the communication link, the diplomatic ships are telling the truth about being peaceful, but the mothership is a different story. It has weapons that could sterilize Earth's surface and troops that could conquer our planet in days. The revelation sent shockwaves through the underground command center. The aliens had indeed come with peaceful intentions, but they had also come prepared for war, just as humanity had prepared the Colossus. Through the war machine's advanced communication array, Taman opened a direct channel to the alien mothership. When he spoke, his voice was amplified across both human and alien radio frequencies, carrying the authority of something that could fight God's. Voltar of the Cosmic Alliance, he said, I am Taman, pilot of humanity's Colossus. We can see your hidden weapons just as you now see ours. Perhaps it is time we had an honest conversation about what both our species really came here prepared to do. The response came not from the diplomatic envoy, but from a deeper, more commanding voice. This is Fleet Commander Cornash of the Alliance Defense Force. You are correct, human warrior. Our peaceful mission carries protection just as your world has revealed its own defenses. Ambassador Yunji, listening to the exchange from the ground, suddenly understood what was really happening. Both species had come to this meeting hoping for peace, but prepared for the possibility of war. It was not paranoia or aggression. It was the wisdom of survivors in a dangerous universe. The Colossus stopped its advance toward Seoul, standing motionless like a metal mountain, while diplomats and military leaders from both worlds considered their next moves. The war machine's weapons remained charged and ready, but Taemin made no threatening moves toward the alien ships in space stations around Earth. Human astronauts watched alien warships that could destroy their planet while on the planet's surface. Alien diplomats studied a giant robot that could tear their ships apart with its bare hands. Two civilizations had met, prepared for both friendship and war. Now they had to decide which path they would choose together. The standoff lasted for 3 tense hours. The Colossus stood perfectly still outside Seoul, like a 400-foot-tall statue, its glowing blue eyes fixed on the alien ships, while diplomats from both species worked frantically to prevent what might become the shortest war in galactic history. Through his enhanced senses, Taemin could detect everything happening around him. The alien diplomatic ships on the ground really were peaceful, carrying only basic defensive systems and translation equipment, but the massive mothership in orbit above Earth was an entirely different story. Fleet Commander Cornash, he said through the communication link that connected Earth to the alien fleet, your main vessel carries plasma bombardment cannons that could turn our cities into glass. You have troop transports that could land armies on every continent, and shield generators that could protect your forces from our nuclear weapons. There was a long silence before the alien commander replied, Your analysis is correct, human pilot. We come seeking peaceful contact, but the universe has taught us to be prepared for species that greet visitors with violence. The Cosmic Alliance has lost too many diplomatic missions to worlds that saw peaceful contact as an opportunity for conquest. Our Minesio watched from the underground control center as her creation maintained its threatening pose. The Colossus weapons were fully charged and ready to fire. Its targeting systems had identified weak points in the alien ships and calculated firing solutions that could destroy the entire fleet in minutes, but she also knew that Temin was still human inside. The machine still capable of choosing mercy over violence. The neural interface amplified his physical abilities and gave him access to terrible weapons, but it could not change his heart-on. The Surface Ambassador Yunji felt her world changing as she began to understand the truth. Both species had approached first contact with the same strategy: hope for friendship, but prepare for the worst possible outcome. Neither humans nor aliens were being dishonest. They were just being careful in a universe where being too trusting could mean extinction. Commander Cornash, she said, stepping forward with her hands raised in a gesture of peace. What if we start this meeting over? Both our peoples have shown we can defend ourselves. Now perhaps we can show that we can also trust each other. The alien commander's response came through speakers that materialized from thin air around the landing site. Your suggestion has merit, Ambassador, but trust must be earned through actions, not words. The Cosmic Alliance has seen too many species promise peace while secretly preparing for war. And let us prove our intentions with actions. Fleet Commander Cornash Unji replied. What would it take for both our species to lower our weapons and talk as friends instead of potential enemies? The answer came not from the alien commander but from General Jinho, who had finally emerged from his underground bunker. His weathered face showed the strain of making decisions that could affect all of human civilization. I will power down the Colossus weapons, he announced over the open communication channel. If the alien fleet will do the same with their bombardment systems, both sides can keep their defenses ready. But neither side needs to have weapons aimed at the other. It was an unprecedented offer. No military commander in human history had ever proposed disarming in the face of superior alien technology, but Jinho understood that sometimes the greatest strength came from showing you were strong enough to choose. Restraint Fleet Commander Cornash considered the proposal for several minutes, while both species waited to see if this first contact would end in friendship or disaster. Finally, the alien's deep voice carried a note that might have been respect. Very well, General Jinho of Earth, our main vessel will power down its offensive systems as a gesture of good faith, but understand that this decision goes against 1,000 years of Alliance military doctrine. We have never made ourselves vulnerable to an unknown species before. The massive alien mothership hanging over Seoul began to change. Its hull, which had been glowing with contained energy, slowly dimmed as weapons that could destroy continents went offline. The ship was still protected by its shields, but it was no longer in an attack posture. In response, Taman felt the Colossus combat systems powering down through the neural link. The war machine's plasma cannons stopped their targeting sweep, and its missile pods sealed themselves shut. The giant robot remained alert and ready, but it was no longer preparing to fight. Your species continues to surprise us, Fleet Commander Cornash admitted over the communication link. In our experience, newly contacted civilizations either attack us immediately out of fear or surrender completely out of desperation. You humans have done neither. You are prepared to fight, but you choose to talk. This is unusual, Ambassador. Yunji smiled as she realized what the aliens were really telling them. Humanity had passed some kind of test, not by being peaceful or aggressive, but by being both strong enough to fight and wise enough to choose peace when it was possible. What happens now? She asked. Now said Veltar, stepping forward from his diplomatic ship. We begin the real first contact process. Both our species have revealed their true capabilities, and both have chosen restraint over violence. This is how the greatest alliances in galactic history have always begun. General Jinho walked up to join the group, his military uniform a stark contrast to the diplomatic clothing worn by the other humans. I apologize for the dramatic entrance, he said, but my job is to protect Earth from threats we cannot handle. I hope you understand why we had to show our strength. Fleet Commander Cornash's laughter was like music played On alien instruments that humans had never heard, we understand perfectly, General. Your actions remind us of our own species. When we first joined the Cosmic Alliance, we too believed that strength and peace were opposites until we learned they are actually partners. Over the following hours, as emergency broadcast systems announced to the world that the crisis was over, both species began the real work of building trust. Alien scientists shared basic medical technologies that could cure diseases. Humans had fought for centuries. Human artists played music that brought tears to crystalline alien eyes that had seen wonders across the galaxy. The Colossus remained standing outside, Sol like a guardian watching over the historic meeting. Its presence reminded everyone that peace was a choice that had to be backed by strength, but it no longer threatened war. And in the neural interface deep inside the giant war machine, Taman smiled as he realized that humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy not as conquerors or victims, but as a species worthy of respect. 6 months after the day that changed everything, Ambassador Yunji stood in the newly built Galactic Embassy in Geneva, watching alien and human children play together in the gardens outside. The embassy was a beautiful building that combined Earth architecture with alien crystal growing techniques, creating something that belonged to both worlds and neither. The first few weeks after contact had been the most difficult in human history. Half the population thought the government had saved Earth from alien invasion, while the other half believed the military had almost destroyed humanity's greatest opportunity. Fear and excitement battled each other in every human heart as the world tried to understand what joining the galactic community really meant. But slowly, carefully, trust began to grow between the species. Dr. Min Sco had been chosen to head the new Human Alliance Technology Exchange Program, working alongside alien scientists who looked like living art. She was developing medical treatments that could cure cancer and heart disease within days instead of years. The combination of human creativity and alien knowledge was producing miracles that neither species could have achieved alone. The Colossus had been moved to a new facility near the embassy, where it served as both guardian and symbol. Taman remained connected to the war machine through the neural interface, but now he spent his time learning about alien cultures and technologies instead of preparing for war. He had become Earth's guardian, but also its first student of galactic civilization. General Jinho found himself working with Fleet Commander Cornash to develop new protocols for first contact with other species. Their combined human and alien military experience was being used to help the Cosmic Alliance approach new worlds more carefully. Many species throughout the galaxy were still afraid of the unknown and needed to be contacted with patience and understanding. The general had learned that his instincts about the alien fleet had been both right and wrong. The aliens had indeed come prepared for war, but they had hoped for peace. His decision to activate the Colossus had been necessary to show that humans could not be conquered or bullied, but it had also nearly ended Earth's chances for a bright future. Your species has taught us valuable lessons, Commander Cornash had told him during one of their planning sessions. We assumed that showing our peaceful intentions was enough to gain trust, but your response showed us that true allies must be equals, capable of both great violence and great restraint. The most surprising discovery had come when human and alien historians began comparing their species' development. Both civilizations had gone through similar struggles with war, disease, poverty, and environmental destruction. Both had nearly destroyed themselves before learning to work together for common goals. The aliens were not superior beings who had transcended human problems. They were simply an older species that had learned these lessons. Earlier, Ambassador Yunji smiled as she watched a human child teaching an alien child how to play soccer, while the alien child showed the human how to make flowers grow with crystal technology. This was what first contact was really supposed to look like. Not giant robots and warships, but beings from different worlds learning from each other. The door behind her opened and Veltar entered, moving with the graceful, dance-like steps that all his species used. The diplomatic envoy had become her closest alien friend during the long months of building trust between their worlds. The Council of Worlds has made their decision, he announced with excitement in his musical voice. Earth's membership application has been approved. You are now officially the newest member of the Cosmic Alliance. G felt tears of joy running down her face. It had taken 6 months of careful negotiations, cultural exchanges, and proof that humanity could be both strong and peaceful, but Earth was finally joining the galactic community. "When do we get to meet the other species?" she asked next. "Month Veltar," replied. "A delegation from 17 different worlds will arrive to welcome Earth into the Alliance. Some of them are very excited to meet the species that built something like your Colossus. Others are curious about human music and art, which has become quite popular in certain sectors of the galaxy." The thought of meeting 17 different alien species would have terrified humans a year ago, but now it filled Unji with excitement instead of fear. Humanity had learned that being strong and being peaceful were not opposite things, they were partners that worked together to create real safety in a dangerous universe. Outside the embassy windows, she could see the Colossus standing in its new home. The 400-foot war machine looked different now. Its hull had been painted with artistic designs created by both human and alien artists, representing the partnership between species. The giant robot was still a terrible weapon that could fight gods, but it was also a work of art that celebrated friendship between worlds deep in the neural interface. Tenon felt the change in his machine's purpose. The Colossus was no longer just a weapon of war. It had become a guardian of peace, watching over the growing friendship between species. Its weapons remained ready to protect Earth from real threats. But its true power now came from what it represented: strength that chose protection over conquest, wisdom that preferred friends to enemies, a species that had learned the most important lesson in the galaxy, that being able to fight and choosing not to fight were both forms of courage. As the sun set over Geneva, casting long shadows from the embassy and the Colossus across the city, Yunji thought about how much had changed since that morning when alien ships first appeared over Seoul. Humanity had been alone in the universe, afraid and wondering if they would ever find friends among the stars. Now human children played with beings from distant worlds, while their parents worked together to solve problems that had plagued both species for centuries. Earth soldiers trained alongside alien warriors, not to prepare for war between their peoples, but to protect their growing alliance from threats that neither could face alone. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders that humans could barely imagine, but it was also full of friends who had been waiting for Earth to grow strong enough and wise enough to join them among the stars. And when other species arrived at Earth seeking trade agreements, cultural exchange, or simple friendship, they were greeted by both human diplomats offering welcome gifts and the distant silhouette of a 400-foot guardian watching from the mountains. The message was clear to anyone who came to Earth: humanity welcomed visitors and celebrated friendship, but it would never again be defenseless against the unknown dangers that swam in the dark spaces between stars. Earth had announced itself to the galaxy as a world of beings who were dangerous when threatened, peaceful when possible, and always ready to protect what they loved most.